Dave Pirtle, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm doing all
Been a
right,
while.
man. Yeah, it has. And this, the sort of thing that we're still not quite through, but maybe it seems like maybe we're most of the way through it, um, has made everything seem like it's longer. Um,
Right.
so it's like everything is like molasses. But so we met because so prior to you being the president of the CEO at Gemeinhart Musical Instruments, uh, I was an artist with the company, um, and I remember getting a call, and because I didn't know what was going to happen with the company. I had been with Gemeinhart for a long time, and so I was just kind of waiting. And then I think what it was is I think it was Jennifer Bonnick called me,
Yep, I was.
and yeah, she called me. She said, "Hey, let's basically let's talk." And so we started talking, and I was like, "Okay, this seems like this is going to be a good thing." I think uh, there was some improvements with I thought the vision for the company and kind of returning back to really focusing on flutes and a lot of that kind of stuff that I really resonated with, and I really dug the both of you, and then it was kind of off to the races. We started doing stuff together right away, um, and I discovered that you were a fellow meathead.
Yes, definitely. That was a
Which was a rather unusual sort of situation. I When I describe our relationship to folks, I always say, it's about a 50-50 thing. Like, 50% of the time we're talking business, 50% of the time we're working out, and
yeah.
so it's so I felt a strong connection with you like right away.
Yeah, I
And
did too. I remember I was in the hotel lobby when you checked in. I never met you because the my predecessor, unfortunately, he kept us all separated. And
right,
we had you going to NASMD to do the
that's
you know
right.
breakfast. Yeah, and Jennifer wanted to bring you in and different type of music. She wanted you to get the saxophone and go for it the first thing in the morning. But I was kind of watching for you to come in so I could get checked in and everything. And you walked in the lobby and you actually had it under control. They had it set for you. So you went and we saw each other from a distance. We didn't really speak. They were too far apart. And I remember going back out, and Jennifer and Sharon Nepp was outside. And I said, man, Sean, man, he's a big dude. So he's a big meathead. I said, he's big. And they're going, well, you're not exactly small. I said, no, this guy is big. I said, he's a lot bigger than me. And it was so funny that night because whenever he gets up close to you, they're going, yeah, he is pretty big. It's just a different thing for that.
Yeah, and it's yeah, like I said, I felt like we connected right away, and it's
Definitely.
nice to have something in a professional kind of relationship. It's nice to have something like that that can sort of take off the um uh uh the sort of seriousness, can kind of um cut the tension or whatever, however you want to describe that. It's nice to have something like that.
It
And
is.
yeah, so why don't you talk a little bit about your powerlifting?
Well, I got into the working out. Well, actually, I started running. I went into management here at Gweinhardt in 19, must have been 93. And
Mm.
so in 95, my father passed away. And so he'd had a stroke. So the doctor that was dealing with him, he had to talk to us. And, I had these stressful moments. So the doctor was trying to tell me I need to do something about this. And they tried to put me on medication. I didn't like that feeling of it. So I started running. So I would actually run, and I ran 2 days a week. I ran 5 miles, and then I would take like 3 days and run the 3 miles, and then I would take 2 days and run 7 miles. And so you go through all this running, and it kept all the stress down. But then what happened when I got 2 sons, and as they started getting older, in high school, they were wanting to play football, and they wanted to start lifting weights, and so we started working out. And it was really a unique thing to bond with them working out. I found out things that I had to cringe at times, to figure out how to deal with this, because just things that would come out that they would be talking about, but we get real close. But the biggest thing is that they're, my sons are so competitive, and it's like they wanted to just outlive me, and I quit running seriously because the older boy, once we ran 3.5 miles, we went back close to home. I was thinking I wasn't going to make it. He says, "Dad, let's kick it up and burn all this energy off before we get home." I'm thinking, hell, I just want to make it home, but so then as we started working out, it got really tough. And, I refused, I don't know, stubbornness, refused to give up, and my boy, he could kill me with legs. He was so strong with legs, and his arms were just, unbelievable. But when I started hitting the bench press hard, all of a sudden I hit this level, and it was like this man strength or something. I don't know what it was, but we were really hitting it, and it was brutal. I mean, we were downright brutal. And I can remember hurting my pec one time, and I come off the bench, paused and held it and started up. I could hear my son's feet pitter patter behind me. And this boy's well into high school, getting ready to go to college. I hear him in the background coming up saying, "I'm going to really kick your ass now. You're hurt, aren't you?" And I mean, that was just his thought, like almost competition. So it got me into it, and I got going, and I got, for whatever reason, that's my lift, the bench is. No matter how long I'm off of it, I can go in and put 315 on 10 times, and I think it's somehow in my mind, I just think I can do it, and when we were first bring the company back on top here, we travel around, there was nothing better than to go in these gyms all across the country. And, since I'm old school and I take my belt and I take my wrist wraps, all the young guys are giving you the look, but you rack up 315 and you rip out 10 reps, all the talk stops, and and so I got going with it. And I told my boy, and I really meant this, I said, I have a son that he thankfully he's a chiropractor now. He's doing quite well, but he was going to school and he was working really hard to get through it. And, and all that competition we always did. And so I said to him, I said, "You know what I'm going to do?" And he said, "What?" I said, I'm going to join one of these powerlift contests. Because at my age, I was just 50, and I was weighing about 230. So the weight class, I was really good. I was weighted more like a bodybuilder, but doing the powerlift on the bench. I said, "I want to get into this powerlifting." I said, "I'm going to win. I want to join one of the contests and get the biggest trophy." I said, "I want to win a big trophy." And he looked at me and he said, "What do you want that for, Dad? You never want anything like that. You're not really want to buy a trophy or get a trophy." And I go, "No, normally I don't." I said, "I'd like to get that trophy. When you get your office open," I said, "I'm going to give you that trophy. And I want you to look at it every day and see if when you turn 50, if you can lift as much weight as I did." So that's how I got started. And I just kept going with it. And it's, Sean, it's very addicting, and I did 525 in an official bench press contest, So
that's ridiculous, man. That is incredible. What was your body weight at that?
230.
520.
I was 230.
Come on, man. Come on.
Yep, I was weighing 230.
That's obscene.
Yeah, I got going, and there was these guys. Unfortunately, the top guy, he had a world record, Big George, and great guys, man. I trained with them, and they were Samoan, and super strong. And George was just, he was just such a bench presser. You could do so much and train with him. And during training, you'd use the slingshot, some of the belts, and it's just amazing feeling when that weight, when you got 600 pounds on, you're using a slingshot, and you feel that bar weight go, you go back up. It's just, I got videos of it. It's just amazing, It's an ego boost. That's what it is, And when you're getting older, there's certain things you try to hang on to and fight, and.
Thank you so much for watching my video so far. If you'd like to support, there are several ways to do so below. Also, likes are free. Please comment, share, and subscribe. Now back to the video.
And you refuse to give in. And, I didn't even realize I was getting older. I was working out at the gym with my sons, several other guys we met in the group, and they would always talk about what the old man does. The old man does it this way. The old man does it that way. Well, one day I realized I was the old man they were talking about. And yeah, fortunately though, they were doing it in a positive way, on how they were doing it. And, but, and so you just kept fighting at it. And, I knew it was something I couldn't really give up, because once you get in the zone of doing that lifting, and at my age, if you back away from it, you'll never get it back, because it hurts too much, too much pain getting back into it. And so, I'm not at it as hard as I used to be. I'm trying to get back at it. Matter of fact, Sean, you'll be impressed. I have a complete gym here at Mine Heart. And I'm talking a complete one. The pandemic didn't stop me from working out. Let's put it that way.
That's what's up, man.
Yes, I mean, it was one thing I always said I wanted one here, and I started just buying equipment, and how I am, kind of real hands-on, and we refurb the equipment, and it was like after hours break, you do something like that, and I mean, it looks really nice. I'll have to do a video and share it with you, because it's I'm sure we're gonna be hitting it as soon as you come over.
Yeah. I'm coming down soon, man.
Yep. You have to.
Yeah, I'm gonna come down sometime this summer.
Yeah.
But or actually, should I say down? No, I should say over, shouldn't I?
Yeah, over. Yeah.
Over.
Yep.
Because we've our relationships we've had a relationship for a long time, and so I think I was coming down. Right, I was coming down because I was up in Michigan.
You were, yeah.
And then now I'm coming over.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah. So the thing about training, and you were talking about with the running and the sort of stress relieving properties, the stress relieving benefits of doing that. And I totally experienced that with the weightlifting, with the training. And maybe the thing I missed the most, the two things I missed the most when the pandemic started was, one, of course, was being on stage.
Oh yeah.
But I actually had some outlets that were pretty frequent to do that throughout, because the church gig that I was doing at that time, we were still doing church services, but it was all live streamed, no congregation. So, it's still not the same as playing for an audience or playing for a congregation. But at least that at least gave me a little taste of that. And I realized that a lot of folks did not have that as an opportunity or an outlet. And this time period has been really quite devastating on the music industry, on freelance musicians in particular. But the other thing that I missed, and it might have been even par with that, was the gym, because the first was it the first 2 or 3 months or something of the pandemic, all the gyms were closed. And I remember Memorial Day, the day after Memorial Day 2020, that's when the gyms opened back up in Ohio. And so so I started going back, and I started going back right away. I didn't wait. And everybody's like, oh, but if you go, you could catch something, blah blah blah, and everybody's all concerned. I was like, man, I have to have the gym. It's worse, it'll be worse if I don't go to the gym.
Right.
It was that kind of thing. And it's not just about the sort of endorphins and sort of the pump and the sort of ego boost, as you said. It's not just that. It's like, it's the people, right? It's the folks that you see. It's the routine, it's getting all your stuff together. You're getting your gym clothes together.
Yep.
Putting them in your bag, making sure you have all your supplements together.
Yep.
Getting all that stuff in the car, driving to the gym. It's all of it.
Oh yeah, every bit of it. Yep.
It's all of it. And then I always take a shower at the gym. I know a lot of folks don't do that, but I always take a shower at the gym. But just I don't know. It's just the whole routine. It's the whole thing.
Right.
And,
right.
And I'm a fitness advocate. I promote I promote going to the gym, working out, doing something active. And I think far too few musicians are really pursuing fitness in that way. However, I will say that it seems that more are these days. I say it seems like I've really started noticing over the last maybe 5 to 10 years that it seemed like a lot more artists and musicians were sort of like starting to kind of, whether it was running or cycling or, or weightlifting. Good friend of mine, one of my best friends, Dwight Adams, who won Mr. Michigan. And, that's an open bodybuilding competition. And that's one where folks can be taking something, but he wasn't on nothing.
Uh-huh.
And he just has these crazy genetics.
Yep.
And most of my routine, I basically modified from routines that he showed me.
Right.
But but that's an example of somebody that really kind of took it to the nth degree. And there's a lot of other, artists and musicians.
Well, when you look at you artists, as being that my background was manufacturing, working up through manufacturing and on that side, not being a musician, and when I started working closely, you work around musicians for years, but really closely in this position back in 2010, I guess when it really started closely. It didn't take me long to realize that, you could be a little more athletic, do a few more, maybe your athletics are a little bit better. But when you look at the drive and the effort and everything it takes, commitment for musicians and athletes, there's so much in common, Now, I will say the musicians got a little tougher, I think, because you got to study the music, you got to study the instrument, you got to practice it, you're going all the way. And, where the sport, you're actually doing the function, for lifting, you got to do all around nutrition and everything that goes with it. But it's the same type of commitment. You got to be committed to it. You got to, really work at it. And I see that. And I see that with several of you. And that's one thing I've really been intrigued with the artists that we've had and worked with, is that you guys are all pretty much, on the workout scene, maybe different levels. We weren't necessarily meathead like you were and myself, but, some type of working out.
No, I don't have a 525 bench press, but I've got a 415.
I saw you in the 400s.
Yeah, I got a 415. That's where it was. And you know how this thing works. It's like it's in waves. It's like this.
Yeah.
You can't. If you try to stay peak strength all the time, you're gonna. That's not gonna work. You have to let your body repair and stuff. So, this summer, by the end of the summer, I'm trying to hit some numbers again. Hopefully beat that 415. But I had a few good lifts. Let's see here. I have a few of these things on my Instagram and on Facebook and stuff. But I had this sort of series of posts that was like, on the road to a 430-pound bench press.
Uh-huh.
And I still haven't gotten there, but it's a little bit of a hiatus, but I had some lifts with the slingshot.
Yep.
And I did, let's see, this is unassisted, so no slingshot. I did the 120s, what was it, 19 reps or something.
Uh-huh.
And I did, but this was on a day that I hit I hit my max. So I hit my max I started with flat, and, I worked up to the max and then came back down. And on the way down, I was still doing like 365 for like 6 or 7 times, and then 10 or 15 times or something with 315, and then the 275 I hit like 17 times or something like that. And then I went over to the dumbbells, and with the dumbbells I got 19 reps, so that was when I was feeling pretty good.
Right.
But I know I'll get back there. But yeah, there's nothing quite like that. So why don't you talk a little bit, I heard you talk a little bit about, you mentioned your career in manufacturing and things. Why don't you talk about how you grew up in, and then sort of found yourself in the sort of career that you've been in that has led you to becoming the CEO at Gemeinhart.
Well, it started off, I guess, when, I was young, went to, going through school, went into technical school, technical training, I love cars, always wanted to, be into cars. And, went through that. It did really well in the state contest. They'd have a state vocational contest. Did really well with it. Had an opportunity to go on to, I believe it was Lincoln Tech at the time. And get you in, you do well there, get you in GM, some of these places. And, but I don't know. I had the mindset back then that my parents they'd moved up from the South. They'd worked extremely hard. My mom, she was knocked down over 6 figures back in the early 80s, so it was one of those things that, okay, I was going to make it just the way they did, and, but what happened is right before I was even out of school, I was just getting ready to graduate in high school. And there was a place over in town next to us. They were looking for mechanics to help convert the trucks to run on propane. So they run on gas, and take that off, change them over to run on propane. So I went and took that job and started working. And of course, then they were going to go up to like 2 a day on the conversions they were doing, right? And there's 2 older guys there working, and they said, okay, well, we're not going to go up in production until we get the vacations out of the way. So these 2 guys will go on vacation. First, this guy will, and this guy will. What happened was that, me being, 18 years old, crawling underneath the truck, and my brother was a mechanic, so I knew about good tools, so I'd have the best snap-on drill and all this stuff, and I'd be under there, and, really come running lines and tanks underneath these trucks. I could just go, I was just going under there, and where it would be hard for them to do, for me, it wasn't. And long story short, we were doing with both of them. The first guy, the former took his vacation first, and the next guy, the worker, took his vacation. And I felt really bad. They called me, and they told me they're going to fire the guy when he went back from vacation, because we were already doing 2 a day, and they didn't need another person to do that. And that was the toughest time. That was the first time coming out of school, going in, someone going to lose their job, And finally, I had to convince myself that it's nothing I did. My father and my mother told me, hey, you just got to not worry about that. But they promised me, they promised me all this big money, right? Doing all this stuff, we get this money in for you. And I was always the type that, you made me a promise, you're not going to stick to it, then it's up to me to move on. And so I had a buddy that got me a job in like a trailer factory type place here in town. Basically, making office furniture, what they're doing for banks. Went in there, and it turned out in the second day, the job was supposed to be great, had a great foreman. Guy was going to bump me up in pay, all everything was just be wonderful, right? Second day on the job, they fire the guy, and I got my first taste of reality of a brutal boss. This guy came in there, and I'm here to tell you, he come in there that second day, I can't say the words he said, and I saw him fire a lady that was crying, and he told her, and you call the labor board and you tell them they don't run this place. And I'm saying, whoa, this guy's, and at the time, my mother told me to quit that job. She said, don't work like that. And I couldn't do it though. I had that, I call it that football mentality, sports mentality. But I had that, you don't quit. You can't quit on something unless you got something to replace it with, You can't start doing life that way. And so I stayed there working through it. And it turns out, as it went, I ended up with an easier job because the head guy did like me. That worked good. And then, interesting enough, the girl I was dating, her mother told me that, Dwayne Hart had an opening. They're looking for somebody to do this fitting job, fitting the foot joint and the head joint together. So I come down here and I talk to them, and they had food sitting all over, waiting to get them fit, and they said nobody could do the job. They're trying to get these people to do it. Nobody wanted to do it. And so I'm going, well, why don't they want to do it? I can't understand why no one wanted to do this job, And I go, well, what if I don't qualify? I said, well, you don't qualify, you're out, It's union shop, so you got to qualify. And if you don't qualify, you got nowhere to go because you just hired in. I was so afraid I wasn't going to qualify, And I came in and honestly, first day I qualified. I was doing the numbers to qualify. Second day, and some of the workers swore someone showed me how to do it or something, but it was just size that up. It's just a mechanical process you're looking at. So once you start thinking through that, and there's 2 die process we use out there today that was one of my ideas that came up with when I was doing it. And I think to qualify you had to do like 80 a day, and I could do 140 a day. And back then they had
you could.
Yes, they had so many to get done. And the gentleman that worked out there with me, Tim Stutzman, he's still here today. And he worked his butt off and just couldn't do as many, And I would tell Ken, I said, Ken, put your name on these, turn them in. And he said, well, you can't do that. So I said, Ken, it's not stealing. You're not taking anything from the company. You're sitting here working side by side with me. You're doing the same amount of work. I go, these got to be turned in to mess up the system. So I don't turn them in. I said, if I turn them in, they're wondering why everybody else don't do 140. I said, I don't know why I can do this many of these. And, but, he did the exact same amount of work. So we were putting them through, and, it's like, that's kind of where it started off, and I plan on staying here just for a little while. And, I was going to get into cars. And we did it when my father was alive. We started paying the car business. We were buying all the trade-ins from the dealers. They would, you take your car, you trade it in, and at that time they didn't have all the buy here, pay here lots. There wasn't a big outlet on what to do with the cars. So we would go buy them, and you do like a refurb on them, and you turn around sell them to the other car lots. That did the financing. But I was still looking at, that's what I wanted to get into big, full time was the cars. Every time I'd start to do something though, the job would change here a little bit like the miner, and the job I just told you about head I was doing that. And when you had a repair, he said, let's say you scratch your dent in the flute. Well, you have to take it back to repair, drop it off, and the repair guys would work it through. They would buff it, fix it, repair it, send it for cleaning, you'd get it back. So this gentleman, he was taking me through to show me where the repair room was. We walked back into the buffing room, and this room was so loud and noisy. Big buffing machines running. It was loud. It was dirty, and you hear the machines roaring. And I go, as I'm walking through there, I said to Ken, I said, "Wow, this is really, man, this is loud. It's hot." I go, "There's no way I would do this job." And Ken goes, "You know what those guys make?" I go, "No, how much?" He said, "They're making $25 or $30 an hour." I said, "Hell, that's where I'm going." And he said, "It's not that easy." And I go, "It can't be that hard, so I'm going to do it." And I got an opening. There was an opening out there then, and I went out, and there was an old guy, Dale Lucas. He just passed away last year. And I went out and asked him. I said, everybody said Dale was kind of ornery guy. Dale was just a hard worker. He wanted things his way, And I remember going out to him and I said, "Dale, are you gonna train me? If I sign this bid, will you train me to do this job?" He said, "Well, I want to know right now, are you going to work?" He said, "If you're asking to come back here and work," he said, "I'll train you. You got to do it my way. You got to work." And of course, I was young and pretty cocky. I said, "Yeah, I'll work as hard, but harder you can ever dare to." And he was a stocky guy. Looked like he lifted weights, but really he got it all from farming. So he would always pick on me. See, I was lifting weights back then, and he would pick on me and all the time and say that his muscles were real. He got them things working on the farm, and so he trained me on the buffing, and and I said, "When I went out there, it was just a one-way trip. I'm not bringing anything back." Maybe you saw it here in Tennessee a little bit, see if you're making another job. I said, "No, that's where I'm going." So at that point, I did head joints, piccolos, and alphas is what we did. So all the head joints, everything, probably mid 80s. There's a good chance I buffed them. Dale and I was buff. And, but, I did that for a while and a couple other jobs. I went into management. And when I started in management, they were doing just a restructure they'd done, and I'd been exposed to the president of the company, Glenn Holtz, from his time. I always had little crazy things I do on the side, and I bought a home in 1985. So, I started working here in 1982. By 1985, I bought my first home, to make some good money. And, and I didn't know, I didn't have kids then. I didn't know, you didn't know how fast his money was adding up, And I remember that when I first realized it was when I was going to buy a Mustang convertible, 67 Mustang convertible I was buying. And we're looking at it, and I'm talking to the guy, I'm trying to negotiate price with him. I said, well, let me talk to the guy at the bank, and I'll give you a call back, see what he says, And my wife says to me, she says, well, so you're just trying to get him down in price a little bit? I go, well, no, I really want to see what the guy at the bank says. I said, I don't know what they're going to say about a car this old, 1967, And she says, well, you got more than enough money to pay for that car. I go, I do. She goes, yeah. Like I said, where do I have that? She said, well, don't you look at the bank account? I said, no, I take my check home and put it on the table. It wasn't direct deposit, there wasn't debit card back then, right? I just put them on the table. She'd take it to the bank. I'd give me $20, something like that. And at the time, we just got married. I was living in an apartment. I sold a new Camaro and got a 72 Chevy pickup truck off my uncle. Rough truck, right? But it cost me no money. So, money was just there. So we bought the house and stuff. And at that point, it had a furnace in the basement that tied to the regular furnace that burnt wood. So it was all sealed in, right? So anyhow, I got cutting wood. And like anything else, cutting wood, I wanted to be able to drop the tree and miss everything and do it the right way. And then, it turns out Glenn Holtz, president of the company here, he was in out of town over the weekend. And the one lady up front knew that I'd cut some wood, and Glenn was trying to get the trees cut. She goes, well, I bet the guy on the shop will do it. So he come and talked to me, and I said, well, yeah, I said, I can do the trees. I said, well, you want me to get rid of the brush and everything? He said, no, I can't do that. I don't have any way to get rid of it. I said, you have to take care of that. Then he said, went around, he goes, well, I'll rent a brush chipper, pay for all that stuff, and you just clean it all up. I said, well, I'll do that. You get what I need to do it. I said, I'll do it. Well, he was out of town. We cut all the trees down. He wanted it out of there, and come back to work. And I remember that Monday he came back and he come out to the buffing room where I was at, and he was so impressed that it was all cleaned up. He couldn't believe how clean we just raked and cleaned it up. That's all we did. But so I got to know him, and when he brought into the company, then he knew that he needed to make some changes. And we had 200 some union employees, management team. He was trying to get this together better, get the quality better. And so they had a engineering firm that came in, and they started looking at different jobs, different things, re-engineering. That's when the re-engineering corporation was big, and streamlining things, and that's really back when the whole music industry stepped up their game, stepped up the production, And so then I came into management then, knowing I was going to be at least a supervisor. And actually, Mr. Holtz told me, Glenn Holtz told me that he called me in to say, he asked me if I wanted to be a supervisor, okay? Now, mind you, I'm making $30 an hour, right? Buffing. And well, then they make some adjustments. For me, it's like $28 an hour, somewhere in there. But he said, would you like to go into management? So, well, yes, I couldn't like that. I didn't want to, I knew that buffing and different that. I knew that's not what I wanted to do, for the rest of my life, but I wanted to, try to do more, and didn't know what for sure. And he said, well, he told me the changes he needed to make, and started talking about being a supervisor. And he said, well, if you like to think about it, he said, how much time do you think you need? I said, well, I don't know. I said, I just need some time to think about it, talk it over. He said, well, okay, why don't you do this? Why don't you go take lunch, talk about it. If you need to get a hold of your wife, whatever you need to do, talk about it. Come back after lunch, tell me what you're going to do. It's like, whoa, it's that fast, I had some exposure to a union meeting. I ended up being a union steward because at the time, no one wanted to do the union steward job. And the head union guy asked me, what I want to do. He said, well, you get super seniority if you do that. So I thought, well, super seniority, you never get laid off, right? So I'll take that. But my views never changed, I was always taught that, you got to give something to the company you work for, have to add a value to it. And but I get more exposure to Glenn then. You can talk about a few things in the shop. And actually, Glenn and I met many times over probably a 3-year period. He'd have me meet him at a restaurant or a bar, and we sit and talk. He had one of those straight scoop. He had that many people and things going on. He's trying to figure out what's going on. And, Meinhardt was the largest exclusive manufacturer of exclusive pickles in the world. 50,000 a year, over 50,000 a year we were doing here. So, it was a big operation. And so anyhow, that's how I got into the management. And then it didn't take long, and I was plant manager. And, it went really well. But I still saw the growth going, to the different other managers in charge at the time, that had their shares. And then, the corporate people that owned it, they, you had to produce a flute in 3.78 hours, no matter what, if you would buy that, you had to answer some serious questions. It didn't matter what made the perfect flute or the good flute. That's what you had to do. And it was a brutal numbers game is what it was. And so went through that. They got to the point where they the first owners, they made their money. We took it from the we took the production from under 1,000 to over 1,000, and we dropped the hours per unit. It drastically changed the whole profitability of the company. And so, needless to say, that group made out really well. I got stock into the company then, and new owners came in, they rolled it forward, and everything kind of changed, because what they found out was that really what happened, you had several things. You had the onset of eBay, which now used instruments could be sold on eBay. They no longer just got thrown in the closet. And, flute was very easy to ship, so it became a, prime thing for eBay. At that time, then, you had our local competition even, everyone has stepped up their production. So there's a lot more units out there. And, Gemeinhard went for a number of years with, my predecessor would hate me for saying this now, but they had it pretty easy because, all they do is go out to dealers and say, we got up at 10%, for a Gemeinhard dealer. And, Gemeinhard was a very prestigious brand that, people wanted. And, it wasn't as tough selling today. And then you had the onset of, foreign instruments, and the duties and tariffs are not right. And, it put it into a real fight. And, so as I was running the factory, sourcing in some cases, working on some stuff, there was some quality issues that happened when we were going fast like that. And the corporate owners, they wanted to switch the pads, and, at that time, it was like, there's a gentleman here in purchasing, Steve Lynn, says, don't do it. Don't do it. And we shouldn't switch the pads. We should stick with the Pizzoni pads. Don't go Pristini. Don't switch them. Well, in New York, they wrote up the whole agreement, on what to do with the pads, how they should be measured. And I can tell you the whole story sometime on it, but they missed it. So when the pads went bad, we ended up with bad pads in some of the flutes, not holding the crease on it. You had 10,000 flutes in our vault here. You had 1,000 flutes at dealers. It was a major deal, when you got into that. Luckily, we were able to service them in the field, do some things to correct them. But that kind of started their tailspin, and they were trying to regroup it, and they brought a new president in, new people in. They brought a new engineer in, and he was, basically put over my position. And, it was pretty rough because my position really went from being vice president of manufacturing to, I still had the title, but had no responsibilities. And they were just taking the steps to squeeze me out. It was the hardest point in my life to go through, going through that, because, at that point I'm putting kids through school. I've got to get them through school. It's very hard to have that, everything taken away like that. And yet I was still getting paid though. I had about $50,000 worth of stock. I was getting a full paycheck. I had a contract that paid me for 2 years. They got rid of me. So, it was really, still a good gig, and I needed to stick with it. And if this guy was right, and maybe I didn't know, maybe he was right on what he knew, I was wrong. And if he was right, I'd still make a lot of money, right? Off my stock. So I stuck with it, and it didn't take long to see this guy was losing so much money a month in the shop. He couldn't do it the way he was trying to do it. He was a smart guy. He couldn't do it the way he was trying to do it. And, so through all that, I went from, like I said, working in the shop to being a VP manufacturing, being in with the top guys all the time, to being slapped down to nothing. and mentally that just destroys a person. Sean, I couldn't decide what I wanted for dinner. I couldn't make a decision on what we should eat for dinner. It's up and down. You start thinking, you start doubting yourself. Should I really be in this job anyhow? And then I started going through things, and the losses they were having in the shop. There was a finance guy here at the time. He started calculating out the losses and what they were from. And I remember looking at him going, knowing the bill of materials, knowing the costing the way I did, I'm going, that's not right. And the ironic part was they had taken away my position. They didn't really care what I was doing all day, every day. But they didn't take away any access I had to anything, Like I'd go and I go to payroll, I'd ask for payroll reports, get different reports. So I started getting all these reports, and I started analyzing what was going on with the cost of the company. And, I put this whole labor analysis sheet together to prove that the finance guy was wrong. But I had nothing, every day I just go and work on it, right? And I had it tied out to within 50 cents every week. I could tie every penny paid out of the company for labor, overhead. I could tie it all right out where it was. But when I went through that, like I said, it was such an emotional hit that, I'm not nowhere near the spiritual guy that you are, Sean. But, you have those spiritual moments, and it's like, I made a promise. I said, you know what? If I ever get a chance to do this again, I'm going to do it different. I can do it different. I can make a difference, because I realized I was a hired hitman for corporate America. Big corporation owned us, they wanted me to take out 20 people. Fine. I'll do it. They want me to adjust this, cut this, fine. That's what I'll do. It's my job. I'll do it, and there's a little bit of that brainwashing that goes with it. Right. And, that's basically what I went through. When then they were coming after me. Okay. For decisions that they weren't all mine. They're coming after me for this. Right. And I realized right then, that I should have done things different. And so to this day, I'm probably too lenient when it comes to working with people, give them the extra benefit. I want them to actually know. They'll know if something's coming down. Well, I'm not happy with something, you right up front with them. And but because you want to have it from slowly, everything started coming back. For that labor report I did, all of a sudden the corporation said, the big corporate owner said, well, whoa, wait a minute, we got to look at this. And once I did that, I had my, as my son would say, I have a mojo back. I said, okay, I'm back on this thing, right? And at that time, I went and got an attorney and said, it's time for me to move on. Once you buy my contract out and, you're not using me the way my contract's written, let's break this off. Well, in turn, the guy from New York says, no, man, wait, give me a chance here. Let me look at this. And he brought another guy in, consultant, and that guy told him, basically, don't get rid of him, don't let him go. He knows too much. And so we worked it through, but then next thing you know, they had me back in trying to help out covering purchasing. They had me back managing part of the shop. And long story short, I don't know what made it all flip around. Then we had another group of owners come in, and we ended up with the sourcing went hit big time. So what happened was the Weinhardt lost so much student business. This gentleman bought in, his group bought in. They lost so much student business that we had to go overseas and set up some factories. And our focus was to go over and bring a flute back and be able to say, this is the best damn student food on the market. And by the way, it was made in Taiwan or made in China. And that was my, it was actually a brilliant line that the owner came up with to use. And that was my focal point. That's what I had to do. And actually the owner, the time Michael Toporic, he talked to me and he said, look, he goes, we all made a trip over to China and Taiwan, went through the factories. And what I didn't even realize was happening, afterwards I realized it, but I went through the factory in China and I'm talking to them and I would look at something, or I would see them with something, I'd pick it up and say, oh, I would see they're having the same problem you have here. It's all the same. It doesn't matter where it's made. It's the same issues, the same problems. And you could talk. I didn't know Chinese. They didn't know English very good, but we knew what we were looking at on that flute. And that was what the owner picked up on. He told me that he'd come back and, things were still crashing, right? We're still losing sales, to the offshore stuff. And what they said was, he basically said, well, look, he goes, I can't pay you what I'm paying you. unless you can go and you can help set up and get, I had quota X amount of flutes I need to get it in. And so that was what threw me into that. So then I went, where now I'm helping set up factories overseas, get the product back. And then I was basically a vice president of manufacturing again. And it was I did it because I never wanted to, I was Midwestern, apple pie, Chevrolet. I mean, I didn't want to go overseas. I didn't want to eat foreign food, didn't want to have a foreign car, didn't want to go there, right? We started sourcing food cases in the 90s from over there, and I had a firm from Kentucky actually go and source them for me because I didn't want to go do it. But once I got over there, once I was thrown into it, I had to do it, right? I had to help get the factory set up, get the product in, best quality, and then you had to be able to ground hand in hand doing. And once I started doing that, I quickly, my whole mindset changed. I realized how wrong I was, to think that I wouldn't like that or that I didn't want to do that, because these people were great people. They were the same as all us people here. All the same. When you look at that, it's like there's no more evident to me when I'm watching them work on the bench, trying to do the best they can. They want to know from me, what does it take to get that? If it's good enough, you want it this way, you want it that way. And they would all have the picture of their child on their desk. And it wasn't a sweatshop we were working with. And but I really, I liked it. I liked being able to help like that. And then the owners, we got to be really close. And some guys, travel back and forth to like China or Taiwan, you're setting up factories. At night, you just want to go to the hotel and get away from it all. Well, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go out around. I wanted to see the sites. I wanted to, do things. All my suits were always custom made over there. Hand tailored, made you look a little bigger even, But so we would do the things like that, and I really got enjoyed it. It really made some, more than friendships. It's like family. So all that happened, and then at that point when we were doing the factory over there, my predecessor at the time that was running the company that I was working for, there was a lot of wrong turns made. I don't know if I should say they were his fault or whose they were, but there was a lot of things that went wrong, and you see the company was getting in trouble. And at that point in time, I'd been working really close with the Taiwanese, and they were offering me a job. They wanted to set up a sourcing place here in the United States. We would source to the big box stores, big name places. We would still manufacture Gemeinhart flutes, but we would have them in a warehouse that we controlled, and basically so they couldn't have any losses. And so it got to the point they got pretty bad, and they quit. They quit Gemeinhart for 2 months. And man, for those 2 months, Sean, 2.5 months maybe it was, man, I was on the road to be the best bodybuilder. I mean, I was working out twice a day. My boys were over in Ohio at University of Mount Union, playing football. And I was telling them I wasn't working out. I was working out twice a day, eating right, no junk, just so when they come home, I could hit it with them, right? And man, it was like, it was really, for that 2.5 months, that's the best job I ever had, you're waiting for samples to come in, you're talking to dealers, and, you're like, okay, there's no, go work out, come back home, you call the dealer to do your thing, it was different. And then I started talking to the old owner, to collect some money for the Taiwanese. And I realized then that I started bumping into that, the bank was kind of forcing the owner to do something with the company. And at that point in time, then it rolled around to where that they were doing a deal with a competitor. The deal fell apart. I don't know really what happened, can't really say, but then what happened was the owner got a hold of me and said, I need you to come back and help me. I go, what? He goes, yeah, I need you to talk to Frank and Con, and I need you to help. You got to come back and help me. I don't want to do the company. I'm getting pressured. I can't have this thing go this way. I got to do something with it, and I need your help. And I go, okay, let me talk to him. So I talked to Frank and Con, and of course, that's the best thing for him because the company, the Gemeinhart owes them money for some of the product, right? So, they thought it was a great idea that I'd come back and help. Well, as the talk went back and forth, he's a good guy. He really is. He called me up on a weekend, and it was on a Friday, actually. And I'm driving over to Mount Union. I'm driving on the turnpike, going to Mount Union, watching my boys play football. And I'm going to spend the Saturday there, watch the games, and I just leisurely drive back Sunday, right? When I get this call, here I am driving, picture me driving down the turnpike, and he tells me, okay, we got it all set. Attorney's coming in. We're going to let this guy go. This guy will be gone. Once you're gone, then we're going to bring you in. So you be ready. And he goes, once you get the president of the company a taxi to take him home because he's not going to take the company car. And he goes, then you got to, I want you to be ready to see. I only live like 10 minutes away from here, from Minehart, And he said, you'd be ready to come in. And so that as soon as he's gone, I want you to come in and we're going to call a meeting, get everyone together. And he says, I'm going to announce you're going to be president and CEO. And then we'll go ahead and roll forward and make you. Wait, stop. What'd you say? He said, well, I'm going to announce you're going to be president and CEO. I said, wait, I'm not going to do that. And for that time, he said, well, wait, you said you would help. I said, yeah, you're right. I said I would help. I said, but, helping doesn't mean, I don't want to be president and CEO because I've never done that before, And he said, well, look, you got to do it. There's no other option. He said, what did you see yourself doing? I said, well, what I thought I would do is I'd come in, I'll be a consultant. I said, I'll come in, I'll tell everyone what they need to do. I'll come back next week and see how they did. He goes, no, man, that's not going to work. And so I called Frank up, Whenever I realized Frank's already thinking that he would love if I'd step into the president and CEO spot, And so I realized I got to do it for him. And that's the kind of friendship I have with these guys too. I really started that off. And yeah, it was for everyone here too, all the people I knew, the company, true commitment to it. I hated the thought of going there and getting sold off. Oh, I hated it with passion, And, but like I say, I come back into it and, hell, you dive in and, like I say, I realized that's what I was going to do and came into it and, and that's what we did. And I started putting a team together. It really hit me that Saturday night. I was driving back from Ohio. I was going to try to drive back. I stopped in a hotel room, popped my computer out, started working, started figuring out what team I was going to put together. And I could pick out the ones that, were on the team. And so we started doing that. That's how I ended up, in this spot. And of course, through the years, they started getting ownership. They had promised, that we would go buy some ownership. And, so that's really the last couple of years. That's what's happened. We got more ownership into it. And, it's been rough though, because, just as I get my ownership into it, the pandemic hit. It's like, what the hell, and
yeah.
But that's kind of the story of how I ended up there, and
So talk a little bit about how the pandemic has affected things, and do you feel like your things are starting to kind of turn a corner, and are you sort of past the worst of it? How do you see things proceeding?
I thought we were by the worst of it. We made it through pretty good as far as keeping people safe, not having a lot of the sickness go through the shop. Even people got it. We got the fortunate part of Minehart was when we started sourcing, we kept the same factory. Kurt Minehart set up in 1947. So 47, 48. So it's way more size than we really need. But you're able to keep good space, from people. And when we did the shutdown and last year, a year ago when they shut us down, the thing was that as it started coming in the shutdown, Texas was calling wanting their flutes. And I said, we're not going to lose those orders. We got to get them out. So I was determined to come in and give people a chance to come back to work. If you're feeling safe about it, you're not going to lose your job. And I wasn't going by any state rules, government rules. I was just looking at the rules I thought was right. So we're going to try to come back. We got to do something. And, so we were shut down for like maybe 12 weeks, something like that. And then, we came back in and, the thing I wanted to do was I would bring people together, and I wanted to, like out in the shop, there's nothing done like in 10 years. So some of the bathrooms there, I wanted to redo them. And I took a group of guys and I tried to show, what I wanted to show them was that we could take what we got here, we take our labor, we could redo these bathrooms, have very nice restrooms and clean and safe, and we don't have to spend a lot of money doing it, So we put the push on to do that, and really worked out great. Come back, but we were doing okay. A lot of orders got canceled, kind of put things in a tailspin. But it's really tough right now because for us is that your whole manufacturing process getting it back up and going. It's just much harder than I ever dreamed it would be, and it goes much deeper than you expect. Because the factories that we work with overseas, we're partnered with, they shut down too. And when they shut down, they did a very good job shutting down and cleaning inventory out. And now you're waiting to build it back up. That's been a mess. The shipping's a mess. Everything's it's so hard, and you have so much lead time there that it's been difficult really getting it rolling. And for Gemeinhard, it's really tough because, we are, flutes, mainly flutes and piccolos and saxophones, and we played around with a few other things, but that's our main line. So you don't have a huge line to really push that through. And what's happened is your product mix has completely changed because your school music dealers were all shut down. Your schools were all shut down, so your rental programs weren't happening. Those dealers were set with their product. We have internet dealers that were just selling like crazy. I mean, I'm talking, through the roof, double digits, over what they were a year ago. Gemeinhard product selling. I've really been pleased with the acceptance of the Gemeinhard product. I see it online going to the end users, and that's really jumped up. But for us, the fact is, and normally you wouldn't see me say these things, but the pandemic has changed things, There's no shame in it, there's nothing to hide. The biggest thing is that for Gemeinhard, 50% of our business would be your school music dealers. 50% of our business would be the online sellers. And you'd always wrestle. Do I raise MAP, pricing, do I do this, and you could affect your internet sellers, or you could affect your positively to get your school music dealers negatively. You could change that around, but you always get this balance one, right? And but what happened is the school music dealer shut down. That's 50% of your business gone. And I mean, huge. I'm talking huge numbers, baffling numbers. Some people don't understand when I say that. It's baffling numbers, and as much as it scares me, there's a part of me that is also really amazed at what we've done, because for the sales volume we've had, we really made some things work. The small crew, but it's all hands on deck thing. The biggest thing is now is trying to get that horse back ahead of the cart. You know what I mean? Because it's like your whole supply line, your whole factory ever going, and yeah, okay, they gave me a PPP loan, and yeah, they're going to forgive it, but you know what? That didn't do a damn thing for my company. That paid my workers, helped me cover health care. And, I'll say that too. That's one thing we did. I'm really proud of is that we paid our workers all the way through. We paid them
Good for you.
We paid them all the way through. And, Sean, business-wise, it probably wasn't a smart thing to do. But I don't profess to be the smartest business guy. But I knew when that pandemic hit, I'm standing out there in that shop, and I'm walking through, because I was the only one here every day, because I'm so close, I could come in and you walk through the shop and you say, what is my most important asset here? It's your workers. I can buy material, I can get supplies, but my workers, I can't train and replace my workers, and without that, and so I was pretty determined that, I thought we should try to pay them. We were going to try to do that all the way through. And we made it through with that. And we may, I'm not saying we might not hit some bumps trying to get the thing balanced back out and get everything flowing. But I've got good orders coming in. Our biggest trouble is getting the supply line running again, whether that's raw nickel tubing, raw silver tubing, whatever it is, just getting everything in place and back up and going. And
yeah, that's interesting, because I've had some conversations on different sides of this supply issue. So I frequently go to, and not as much in the beginning of the pandemic, but we got about halfway through, and then I made a couple trips. But Guitar Center, you go into Guitar Center, and there's like, I don't want to say nothing on the walls, but like maybe a quarter of the stuff that was usually in there,
Right.
you know? And, I talked to one of the managers that I've known for a long time. I have to admit, I've made several trips to Guitar Center, way too many trips.
Yeah.
uh, and so one of the managers I know pretty well, and he was saying that, what was it, in April? I think he said in the month of April, they did like $2.5 million in sales or something, which
Yeah.
is what they do during the holiday season, during Christmas time.
Right.
So the issue is not selling stuff. The issue is getting stuff to sell.
Right.
It's getting stuff in the store. They can't get enough stuff in the store. It's because all of the supply lines are all jammed up. And
Right. And that's the thing too, is that, and like I said, for us the product mix changed. So all of a sudden the 2SP maybe wasn't the hot item. You have so many of those like you normally would. All of a sudden your 3OB is a hot item, a very hot item. And
right.
that mix has changed. And it's getting everything switched around to go to that mix. Our piccolos are still doing very well. Getting all that geared up in place. And like I say, it was tougher than I thought it would be. To really get it cranked back around. And you're trying to staff everyone. And we're not used to really missing missing our targets here, missing like what the dealers want when they order, customers order. And it puts us in a situation though where it's sometimes it gets next to impossible. You get so many orders coming in, and the online orders that come from our online dealers, you can see it. I can literally see, Sean, I can see it transition from whether it's Guitar Center, Food Center New York, Food World. I can watch, they'll ask for the same product because you got a customer that wants to find something. If they don't have it, they'll call the next dealer. The specialty shops like that, Carolyn News found me a call, but everybody looking for the same flute. Everyone was asking for the same flute. And it was a D sharp, with a C sharp trill with a D sharp roller or a splitty. That when someone's looking for that, okay, no, I don't have that. And we're trying to get it. And so that mix changed, but
and I interviewed Gary Sugal, and he is a like world-renowned mouthpiece manufacturer, mouthpiece maker. This is him back here actually, and I've been playing his mouthpieces for a while, and he was talking about some changes that he had to go through. So he owned a CNC machine. He owns a CNC machine, right? So he was doing mouthpieces CNC, right? But then of course the pandemic hits, and then so he couldn't have workers in the shop, and then he had to sort of reimagine the way that he was going to do things. Plus, a lot of the stuff that was coming in, a lot of the foreign stuff, so that was coming in, they could sell it for a lot cheaper, and they were like making mouthpieces that were, more or less replicas of some of his mouthpieces. And so then he got into this 3D printing thing. And so now he's all about 3D printing. He still can do the CNC stuff. But
3D printing is a big thing.
Yeah. So it's really interesting to see how this period of time has sort of forced companies to kind of jump to the next stage of evolution. I also talked to Dean Zielinski, and that's him back there, and that's Dean of Dean Guitars. Of course, he's not with Dean Guitars anymore. The company now that he's doing is called Dean Zielinski Private Label Guitars. And in our conversation, we kind of talked through some of the challenges again. And recently, he told me that one of the factories that his guitars are made in, they're shut down right now. They're shut down.
Right.
So it's like you can't get your stuff made if the factory is shut down.
Right.
That they can't send you anything. There is nothing to send you.
Right. Right.
And so he's still getting orders like crazy, but he can't fill a lot of the orders,
Right.
and so seems like that's going to be the game, the thing to solve. And then of course I heard you say the same thing exactly.
Yeah.
So
Now we've taken and we have taken this opportunity to look at some of the things like the Galway Crusader line. That the head joint there, we work on, it's got a higher cost. When you look at the casting that we use for the lip plate riser, the platinum, and it's higher cost to it, but the process is really good, really good. So you zero in on that, and we've worked on some of the manufacturing trying to switch to similar type things, and I think that's I think the trick going forward is, how do you find those niches that really helps your quality and your productivity, and that's what you got to lean to, and some of it is finding the right shops to partner with that maybe they don't make musical instruments. Maybe they're making some high-end medical equipment, and they got some really sophisticated CNC machines that can make some good pickable parts for me. That's some of the things that we can really zero in on and improve with. So we're trying to focus on that, and be very resourceful, trying to use what you can, try to make things work, try to produce what you can, and it's frustrating though trying to get it all up and going. It's not like it was, and and like I say, for us, if when you lose 50% of your sales, in excess, over $2 million in sales, I mean, that hits hard, and you're trying to balance out, you're trying to right size it, and it's difficult to do, and you can't just start ordering everything that you would have mixed a normal mix, across the line, because you got to really zero on just what you're going to sell. That factory in Taiwan or China, you got to load that right, because how are you going to you don't want to overproduce, and what happens if you overproduce, and you got stuff there that can't do anything with, and so it's a real balancing act. It's been a tough one, but
yeah. So one other thing I wanted to ask you about is, now I've heard you talk about your boys. You sort of, you're going through this journey and talking about how you worked your way up to the president of the company. This is like it's like the American dream or something. It's the thing that people talk about, but it seems that there are few situations that are actually, that actually happen this way. It used to be at one point in time in our country's history, this sort of thing seemed like it happened with a lot more regularity. If you worked hard and you kind of work your way up from the bottom, you could find yourself in a upper management kind of position in these companies. But it seems like the opportunity to do that is sort of few and far between, and there's just not companies. It's just the whole company structure is just not the same. Like,
right.
One thing that I really dig about Gemeinhart, and always dug about Gemeinhart, was this sort of like salt of the earth, regular people, people just grinding it out, making a great product, treating people well, trying to treat people well, trying to, the whole respect.
Yes, absolutely.
An honest day's work, is worth an honest day's work, not trying to cheat folks.
That's right.
Just the kind of honesty, that whole thing. And I always kind of got that sense, but when you took over, that sense became overpowering. And I have to say, the reason that I've stuck around with Gemeinhart as long as I have, it's been because of you sitting in the chair that you're sitting in, because I trust you. Yeah, I trust you, and I know that even even though certain things have been maybe slower because of the pandemic and because of other stuff, I know that things eventually are going to happen, and when they do, it's going to be, uh, it's going to be done the right way.
That's what I think
It's
too.
going to
And
be done the right way.
Jennifer and I, we just spend a lot of time thinking on things and working on, how we're going to do things, what we're going to do. And, what I really see is, I see a company coming out of this and look a little different, maybe be a lot stronger in many ways. And, I catch myself watching the forums all the time. And, people don't understand when they say a negative thing about the mine hunter, that's not just a negative comment that they're allowed to make. If something's not right, I have to counter it. That's harmful to the people. Everyone I'm trying to keep working, everyone here at the company, they make these comments like that, they're going to get questioned because it's like, wait a minute, that's like you got to present the true story out there, and it can't be, so you find yourself very defensive of your company and your people. You're fighting for survival is what you're doing, and it's different, and so you defend it and, you try to do the right thing. And, that's what we do too with customers and quality problems, you just try to do the right thing. It's not what happens to the product, it's how you take care of it. How do you take care of the problem when it happens, And that's what we try to do the right thing, and I think in the long run, though, that'll come back to us, we'll get to do it off that,
Look, a lot of companies faced with similar challenges that you all were faced with, the first thing that they would have done is start laying a bunch of folks off.
Yeah.
That's like the first thing that they would have done.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And that tells me all that I need to know. That tells me all that I need to know.
The fact of the matter is too, that I guess, that's right. And the fact of the matter is you got a little bit of PPP money and you could have done, but see, I could have taken that money, paid 1% interest on it over a number of years, and I could leave my employees off. And I got no trouble for that. No trouble at all. I just had to pay the interest on it, right? Now, 1% interest on the money, where do you get for 1%, And, but it's the wrong thing to do. It was the wrong thing to do. And,
well, I mean, if you just consider like people that have been working for a place for a long time, I mean, even for a couple years, even if you've just been working there for a couple years, you have something to do with the success of that company, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you have, the whole sort of sweat equity in being willing to sort of give that little extra and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, what is the point in doing that if the company that you work for is not going to prioritize you?
That's right. Yep.
I've seen a lot of fellow musicians, not only have they lost gigs, freelance gigs because, there are no gigs right now.
Sure.
It's starting to happen, but but then also even institutions that they worked for, like churches that they worked for long periods of time, and these churches, these organizations did not prioritize them.
Right.
Did not prioritize them. And so then they find themselves out of work, plus they have no way to generate any kind of income, plus whatever time that they had in, whatever skin in the game they had, it's like a smack in the face.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I hear you, and I think that long term you're causing more problems for yourself that way too, it gets difficult at times though, working through every situation, it's difficult. You got to do the best you can and work through it. But, the big thing is communicating with people, working with them, try to treat them right, and
Yeah.
now I'll say it. I'll ask workers the same way, hey, it's not fair to me. Why are you doing that? And but for the most part, I don't have to do that. They're really like a good group, and we keep pushing through, and I think we'll continue to find our way, as we go through it. What works best, and see what's back on track, and a lot of the stuff there's big demand on that we're behind on. I like that. It's the higher product. It's very hard. Student flutes are very tough. That's a very tough business, I'll tell you. You're trying to get a high quality, low cost, get into the rental program, have to have it, and get the band program started. And with that, step into some of the higher end stuff, get a little more room to work, and that's kind of where I'd rather be anyhow, working through some of the mid range, so we're gonna keep pushing and see what we can do.
All right, man. Is there anything that you want to plug, or anything that you want to say, or maybe a final word or something?
Well, I'd just like to, as long as we're kind of in that groove there about the shop and what we're doing, is that for everyone just to know that when I get defensive about Gemeinhart, it's because it's really a family thing we're taking care of. We're trying to take care of the workers here, really doing a job, trying to do the right thing. Even some of the workers overseas in our global organization, parts are being made here, they're sent there, come back through here. It helps the whole organization. And we really are trying to, keep it together and, really make it work. And, there's sometimes that the thing I say is that when I see I hate saying it, but when I see someone being a brand snob, you can tell it. Like, they know. I know what instruments are pretty close to Gemeinhart, and I know what ones aren't. I know where a lot of them are made overseas, been in the factory, seen it. And you can tell. People start commenting. So-called experts will comment, and it can be negatively come across for Gemeinhart. Is you can't accept that, as being part of the company, you got to defend what you do. So that's not what happens, and but promote it in a positive way, but still let the world know that, hey, when you buy a Gemeinhart product, we're going to stand behind it. We're going to give you the best quality we can, and you are making a difference, to the people here, at this factory. It means something, and it means something to me to get it right. I still have this. I have this feeling that if I'm doing the right thing, Kurt Gemeinhart, he's looking well over me. Doing the right thing for his company. If things start going wrong, you do the wrong thing, and start hearing sort of rattles around the shop. Something's wrong. And yeah, so that's what I would say is that know that when you look at Gemeinhart, give us a fair shot, and we'll do the best job we can, and we really stand behind the product, and we plan on. Can't wait to get back working with you artists again, and really get pushing that. That was our strength for a number of years. That's what we stood on, and I believe in it. Jennifer believes in it. We believe in going forward, and we're going to continue to do that. Get all the thoughts and ideas we have on what to do, and we're going to continue to move in that direction.
All right, man. Well, it's been great talking to you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, enjoyed it.
And we'll be in touch.
Definitely.
God bless you.
Yeah, God bless you too. See ya.
All right, man.